listen, this chick talks about her Call Her Daddy podcast is all about chicks having tons of promiscuous sex. It's like, it's a podcast for how to be a whore, basically. Like,
I looked it up. It's like Sex in the City. It's in New York. Human sexuality, human relation. Okay.
Yeah.
And Kamala's campaign managers thought this was a good podcast to go on.
Yeah, because of the female demographic.
Sitting across from you, I think, you know, as women, we have to work 10 times harder. We got to be smarter. We got to play the game to even get our foot in the door sometimes.
Shut the. Okay, go on. Go on. Sorry.
Cappy, let it all out. That's why you're here.
You're the most, listen to me as an economist, okay? American women are the most spoiled and privileged group that has ever lived in the
world,
history
actually.
of the world. In the history of the world. You are not oppressed. You have the skids greased for you in pretty much every capacity and function, whether it's political, sexual, hiring, economic. And the fact that you are conditioned and brainwashed to believe you are victims is getting mighty fucking sick and tiring.
Yeah.
And I don't know if it's a call sign or a rally point or a wink and a nudge. We're oppressed, right? Or you actually believe that shit. But you are misdiagnosing the problem. You will never close the wage gap. And if you want, did they not just talk about agency half a fucking second ago? And yet they're the victims. It's time. Look, this is what's going to happen where you have women who work really hard and actually did have, weren't pretty, didn't have privilege. And every man, you want to get men. And here you are. Women are so oppressed. OMG, girlfriend. It's the same fucking schlock these young men have heard from their fucking teachers on. And here's where our world comes in. What? We've been sitting here unquiet? You don't think millions, tens of millions, hundreds of millions of men around the world hasn't read our shit and haven't figured out, hey, wait a second, this is bullshit. We haven't oppressed any of these girls. No wonder they probably took it down. This is definitely going to hurt Kamala in the male vote because men are sick of it. They're sick and tired of this same shit all the time.
Well, I think they took it down, if I'm not mistaken. They took it down because for Call Her Daddy podcast and all that took flack for this. Is that what I'm understanding?
Even the comments are men and women turning on her on the clip, which I'll go to later.
So her audience turned on her for basically selling out on this. And so that's why they took it down and stuff like that, which is a good sign, right? I mean, that's a good sign. I mean, it's hard because people nowadays have the attention span. Last I checked, it was 8 seconds of the average attention spans. And a goldfish is 9.5. So, I mean, people are getting stupider and more easy to control. So it's nice to see a little bit of pushback every now and then. I'm glad they took it down. I'm glad they got some pushback on this. You know what I mean? Maybe things will turn out okay in a few weeks for the election. Maybe. I don't know.
Here we go.
Can you tell the daddy gang?
Yeah.
When people tell you no, when people look at you and doubt you, what does that ignite in you?
So I've been told that many times. And through the course of my career, I've been told, at one point, you're too young. I've been told, oh, nobody like you has ever done that before. Oh, they're not ready for you. Oh, and this is the one that kills me. Oh, it's going to be a lot of hard work, right? As though we don't like hard work. And here's my response. I don't care now.
You women are the biggest avoiders of hard work there's ever been. Hang on. What do you think Kamala Harris majored in? What do you think her undergrad? Hang on. Kamala Harris, undergrad. It ain't fucking engineering. What is it? Divine Nine. Political science and economics. F off. And what did daddy woman major? Hang on. What's this girl's name?
Alex Cooper.
Alex Cooper. I mean, go ahead. Continue on. Let me look up what Alex Cooper majored in.
Okay, go ahead.
She's just a comedian, dude. I'm not sure.
And I urge all the daddy gang, don't hear no. Just don't hear it.
Throughout this election, your identity has been called into question many times. Your opponent
Not
has
no
called
means
you
no.
crazy, weak.
Yeah, that's exactly what I was saying. No means no, except if you're a woman listening to this podcast.
Oh,
She
yeah, guys.
graduated with a degree of
Send her
Boston,
one more text. Send her one
Communications
more
major.
text, boys.
Yeah.
Communications major. She's the
degree in
fucking
film and television.
Christ.
weak, fake, and dumb. How does that affect you?
I think it's really important not to let other people define you. And usually those people who will attempt to do it don't know you.
I want to talk about before your career in Washington.
Yes.
You mentioned you worked as a prosecutor specializing in sexual assault
Yeah,
cases.
yeah.
And this is something obviously I touch on my show. I have so many women that listen, and
Yeah.
I want to talk to you because I know you had a personal connection as to
Right.
why you really sought that out. Can you talk about what led you to taking
Yeah.
on that career?
So when I was in high school,
Mhm.
my best friend, her name is Wanda, I learned was being sexually assaulted by her stepfather. And, I knew something was going on because she didn't want to go home. She just seemed sad. And so she told me, and I immediately said, you have to come and stay with us. I called my mother, who was at work. Yes, she has to come stay with us. And she did. And I just, it upset me so that someone where they should feel safe and protected were being so horribly abused and violated, right? And anyway, I decided at a young age I wanted to do the work of protecting vulnerable people. I mean, look, I'm the eldest of 3
John, can
daughters.
I
I was raised
interrupt
with
for a
my mother
second?
saying since
Absolutely.
Our
Why didn't you
president
go
is
to criminal?
Excuse me.
Why didn't you go to criminal justice? Why didn't you become a cop? She majored in political science. That's
Well,
not
yeah,
like
she
going
wanted
out and protect. Yeah, that's bullshit.
a career in politics.
She had to keep the world safe from black men that smoke marijuana. That's what she did. She built her whole career on locking black guys up, and now she's coming out with this shit. Black guys are like, "Fuck you, you."
What did she have like an anti-marijuana stance or like
Yeah.
a minor possession? Was she like an anti-drug type of DA?
She, with the whole drug hype in the '90s, and
So
she's-
victimless crime. So
Yeah.
she threw a bunch of people away because they want to do their doobies or something like that. Not sexual. I mean, does she have a career in prosecuting sexual offenders?
I think some
And
human traffickers from Mexico. Yeah.
Okay,
that
All right.
that would be a good thing, right? But then there's also,
For that,
but then there's also like, okay, what about, what about situation like to what degree are we talking? Like, is there I don't know what her history is, but like there's situations too where guys get pulled into court for being a ex offender when they didn't do anything wrong and they're having the
Well-
system used against them. So I wonder if she did anything about that to defend
And
against
on
that.
top of that too, okay, so because she did prosecute a lot of trafficking people from Mexico, so why is the border open and letting them all in?
Well, again, the contradictions are many here, and I'll be honest. So far, the vice president ain't doing too bad on this interview. My main gripes and contentions is the typical lying politician that contradicts everything, and the I guess the nature of this interview, where okay, you got some Bipsy Becky asking I mean, it's just listening to hens squabble is all it is right now.
Yeah. Well, when you want this, we don't need to go into it right now, but the social psychology perspective of what the strategy is and why it works a lot. Hopefully, it doesn't work this time, but it can work, and I'll explain that in later. We'll say later in the video. We can watch more.
practically the day my sister was born, look out for your sisters. So maybe it started when I was 2. But Wanda and her experience really convinced me and made me realize how this can happen and what we need to do to stand against it.
Can you, because again, like I have women write in being like, I don't know who to tell. I'm
Yeah.
DMing you and I'm telling
Yeah.
you because the shame and the terror and the where do I go from here? And most of the time it is the people that are closest to them that are doing this. Like,
it is.
what feelings do you have and like what is the course of action in that moment that you take?
So the first thing that I would say to anyone going through it is tell someone that you trust. Don't quietly.
Call the cops.
Yeah.
You
Call
have done
police.
nothing wrong.
Call
You have
police.
done nothing wrong, and don't let anyone convince you have. Often the abuser will tell her that if she tells, then something worse will happen. And that is usually wrong. And
Gabby, if I ever get stabbed or mugged, I'm not going to call the police. I'm going to call you. Okay.
Thank you. I'll be here for you, John. We can have an emotional discussion about it.
Well, here's the interesting thing too. It's like she, call the police. You didn't do anything wrong. But what if you did? Right? Like, what if you did? Like, how many? I have story after story from men that I've coached and people who have come to me after crazy divorces where she destroys property and loses her mind in an argument while she's intoxicated and then calls the cops and then says he's abusing me. And then he goes off into cuffs and she is now filing a restraining order. I have guys who have false allegations of, of child abuse or of abusing a woman after divorces and during divorce proceedings. In fact, in Japan, where you're at, John, that is a playbook move by attorneys there, which is to do a false allegation. And the process of fighting that will get her more bargaining power in the divorce. So when there's money on the line in the divorce, for bargaining power, they'll throw out false allegations and then eventually offer to drop those charges for giving you more prizes at the end of the divorce. This is a strategy that's happening. And so I appreciate somebody who's assaulted. They should report it. They should get out of it. They should do everything they can. My heart goes out to true victims of assault, men or women, depending on whatever the circumstances. But there's so many cases where the girl absolutely is wrong. And she's, that needs to be considered in these conversations. Yeah. Don't ever let anyone tell you you're wrong because you're a woman. Yes, again, you're wrong a lot. Well,
the thing here is the number one important part is like how it's just this whole thing is very, if you can see past the veil of the emotional storytelling, it is a gigantic manipulation. This whole thing from start to finish, from her intro to her sitting in front of a bookshelf to the scripted questions that she has in front of her. I would not be surprised if Kamala had a teleprompter behind this woman.
Well, who are they trying to manipulate? This woman's audience? Because they're not manipulating us.
Well, I mean, it is a gigantic push towards trying to get voters for sure.
Right.
That's
it is a marketing move, no doubt. But and so it's all manipulation to.
So here's why it works, though. There's a whole it works because we have a simp economy right now, and we have women that identify with being the victim who has to overcome stuff. So here's where this victim narrative comes from on the female side of things, particularly, right? Is that women biologically, evolutionarily are the weaker sex. So they use and are better at social manipulation than men are in order to gain power. Men have classically gotten power through acquiring resources and protection. So making society better, getting money, and protecting that stuff from outside invaders, right? That's how guys gain power, and then we make the rules because we have all that stuff. Women learn how to move within a system socially, and so there's more of a wiring there and a tendency to want to do that, and they're the physically weaker of the sexes, so they're used to social manipulation in order to get what they want, right? Now, in doing that, they're also solipsistic. So as women got more power and more equality, I mean, there isn't equality anymore. I'd say the balance is tipped in favor of women now, depending on the profession that they're in. But they don't recognize that because of two things. One is that the victim narrative, and I am having to overcome adversity and oppression in order to do well and to do better, manipulates the system to make things easier for them to succeed. So what they use their power in order to get ahead, right? And then the other thing is there's a level of solipsism where, okay, that solipsistic thing is part of a female defense mechanism that has tracks into evolutionary our history. And so seeing things just from that perspective and not having empathy, what they're not understanding is that nobody has it easy. Like life sucks
call.
balls sometimes,
It's
and you
unfair.
have to. It's unfair. Everyone has adversity to overcome. It's just to different degrees. Some people were, born into like privileged, wealthy families. 1% of the people. Everyone else has had to overcome adversity, but women are sitting there not seeing the adversity that men have to deal with every day.
And they go
only
into that in the upcoming parts here. Check this out, because it gets
Yeah.
like I said.
And know that there are people that want you to be safe and will want to protect you, but don't silently suffer. And know that you have a right to live in a place where you feel safe and are actually safe.
Unfortunately, I know that so many women can relate to what we're talking about. 1 in 3 women has experienced some form of sexual
You're right.
abuse
That's
in
exactly
their
right.
life.
That's exactly right.
And I feel like when we say that, that number can get lost because it's like 1 in 3 women, like, no, this is happening. This is real. This is happening right now.
But Alex, let me just say this
yeah.
also. Thank you for talking about it, because part of the issue is that people don't talk about it. And I don't mean the survivors of it. I mean, nobody does. And
Please talk to the police.
the more that we
Can
let
I say,
anything,
John, can you pause it for, let me be very quick. I work security at the U of M campus. It was part of the police department. And we were there. There'd be accusations and this and that. The first thing they tell us is you got to get to the cops. You know why you got to get to the cops? Because they got to go do a DNA test on you so they can get the bad guy. We're trying to fucking help you. Make a choice. Do you want the endorphins you get from being a victim and complaining, or do you want to catch the bad guy? We're actually trying to practically help you. And this it gets tiring. We don't talk about this enough. No, we talk about it enough. When are you girls going to take agency and go report your bastard ex-boyfriend or whatever to the cops? When does that happen? But see, this is, and I'm afraid this is what the entire conversation is going to be. This is not intended for us. This is just not intended for men. That much is clear. It's not practical. It's just circular. They've been talking about this for decades. This is no different than Oprah interviewing Ellen DeGeneres. This is just, so, I mean, go on, but there are people trying to actually help you girls out. They're called the good guys, but you keep on doing this. What was us if there wasn't a thing, and da-da-da. Report them to the cops. But geez, let me guess, you're going to vote to have a bunch of criminal aliens come in here. You're going to be soft on crime. I mean, where do the Democrat policies line up with protecting women? Really, where does that happen? And if anything, we're the ones that get arrested or anything like that. So it's just tiring seeing the disconnect from reality. But yes, this, Paul, you're right. This is a woman's show. This is female opera. This is in the minds of women. And I have a feeling if I watch the whole thing through, there's not going to be one practical, critical assessment and solution of a problem in the United States. But it sure the fuck is going to feel good talking about it.